Welcome to the periodic table of history, studying history in 4 dimensions. Let's talk about Jeroboam I, the first king of northern Israel, as well as some other events that are happening all over the world. Jeroboam's story is in 1 Kings 11 and 12 and 2 Chronicles chapter 9 through 11. And his most interesting story is about how he set up 2 golden calves for the Israelites to worship. So we're going to talk about the other kings of the earth during his reign, but firstly, let's find out where and when he was. We'll turn the globe over and get our view focused on Israel. Due to the idolatry of Solomon, Israel is divided up into the northern and southern kingdom. In blue, we have the southern kingdom of Judah, and in red, we have the northern kingdom of Israel. So we're going to be talking about Jeroboam in the northern kingdom, in the red. And we'll get a better look at that. Remember, Solomon set up a lot of high places for Ashtoreth and Chemosh and some other gods, so he could appease the many wives that he had. In so doing, he taught Israel to be idolatrous. And Solomon was right in his assessment of Jeroboam because he did eventually take the northern kingdom of Israel. But because of Solomon's disobedience, we have this division line between the north and the south of Israel. And furthermore, the 2 idolatrous calves were placed in Tel Dan and Bethel. And I'm going to put Jerusalem on the map just for kicks, because what we can do is see how close Bethel is to Jerusalem and then how it rivaled it. Jeroboam thought to use religion just to control the people. He wasn't thinking about God as actually being real. He was thinking of religion as just a machine to control people. And therefore, you can see down here where Bethel is, he would have all the tribes in the north going south like they did before, but then they would stop at Bethel and come back and then never make it to Jerusalem. So that is very strategic, but that's not something that God was very thrilled with. There is wide agreement that this Tel Dan is the archaeological remains of the actual site the golden calf went to on the north. And then we know where Bethel is, and there's an archaeological site here in Bethel. So these give witness to the existence of Jeroboam I. And we can still visit these places nearly 3,000 years after his reign. As far as when Jeroboam I lived, I'm going to use the field dates, and here is the overall periodic table of history. I'm going to bring a blue circle out because it's right in here where Jeroboam is. We have been studying Saul, David, and Solomon. We have a united Israel just for a short time. And then a little on the left, I've got northern Israel, and a little on the right, I have southern Israel, which is Judah. We can zoom in and see the detail. Here is Jeroboam I, and according to Edwin Thiel, he lived somewhere around 931, 930, and reigned down to 910 or 909. Be sure to read his story in 1 Kings and also 2 Chronicles. And now what we'll do is change our attention to the other kings of the world. We're going to take a small look at Ireland and England, also Assyria, India, China, and Egypt. Getting a horizontal view is something that this project was made for. We don't have a lot of information on the kings back behind about 500 BC, but it's still fun to take our stab at some of the things that could have been going on. And so in Ireland, we have King Sedna, that by the Annals of the Four Masters say lived from 930 to 910. So this is about the same time that Jeroboam I lived. And the only thing we know about Sedna is he's the first Irish king to pay his soldiers. And there were quite a few Irish kings before this, so it makes me very curious what happened before and after this. Each country on the globe went through this problem of whether to have a standing army or to have a farmer army that turned into an assaulting army in the spring. And in the Hebrew record, we frequently hear the expression changing their plows into swords, because they didn't have a lot of metal, and that's something they had to do. They had to go through the process of retooling. It's kind of fun to see that little fact about what's happening in Ireland when you see the problems that Jeroboam had. And then you can write down what you think the army did before and after Sedna. Moving just a little bit over, we have King Leil of Britain. He reigned from 945 to 920, and he founded Carlisle. He's one of the legendary kings of Britain. Though King Leil had a 25-year reign, it was towards the latter end of his reign that England became unstable. And we don't have the detail on this, but a civil war erupted, which led to his death. So here we see two civil wars happening on the planet at the same time. That's rather interesting. Now we'll go over to the Assyrians. And remember, the Assyrians were from Ashur and are a great landmass around where we think of as the Fertile Crescent with the Tigris and Euphrates. Now Babylon is the real big city there. We have the king of Ashur-dan II in 935 to 912. So he's contemporary with Jeroboam. Ashur-dan II spent a lot of time administering the lapis lazuli trade route, which was big for the Assyrians. Now this king of Assyria made campaigns into the surrounding areas and made war against the Arameans to the west. Another problem that he had was the Medes took up arms with the Babylonians against the Assyrians. So this brought down all the ability of the Assyrians to project power in the world around them. If we move a little bit further east, we go to Satyajit of India. Not somebody that we hear about a lot. The countries to the east of Persia are very powerful island countries that have vast resources. And so that would be India and China and others. But this Satyajit has a legend about him in the Bhagavat Purana. The legendary story states that Satyajit obtained ownership of a jewel that was so brilliant it was like the sun. And this jewel made people covet. So Satyajit was killed by 3 warriors who took the jewel. And of course, 1 warrior was killed and 1 retained the mythical jewel. The story doesn't say anything about the 3rd warrior, but we leave the story at that. And as a little bit of a testament to thou shalt not covet, as the Hebrew laws tell us. Going farther east still to China, we have Gong Wang. And this is King Gong of Zhao. And this is from the records of the Grand Historian. Now he was touring a nearby country, and he coveted 3 beautiful women. Another story about covetousness. So he commanded the governor to bring the 3 women to him. Now the women were so beautiful that the reigning governor took the 3 women for himself. What a coincidence. And so King Gong started a war and killed that ruler. It's so amazing to see these concepts of life and death and natural law that God gave to the Israelites on Mount Sinai. How many wars have been fought over covetousness? Too many to count, I would imagine. So it's starting to look like Ireland is one of the most stable places on earth at this time. Now let's turn our attention to the south, and that's going to be Egypt. Now Shashinq I is the great African king, and he is even revealed in the Bible. He is Shishak in the Bible. We have a fun story of Jeroboam fleeing from Solomon. He went to Egypt to the reigning king Shishak. So they would have known each other. And then the records of Shashinq reveal that he brags about many military victories in the Levant over Rehoboam and other Canaanite cities. The Egyptians handled diplomacy very well. And that takes us to a lot of the things that are happening all over the world. We do have some allusions to kings in Ethiopia, but we don't have the details. the proper names or the proper dates of when these kings are reigning. But on the whole earth, we know that there's war in Britain, in Assyria, in China, and Egypt alongside Israel. And in Ireland, the soldiers are just starting to get paid. And in India, covetousness is getting people killed. So these are interesting fun facts around the world during the time of Jeroboam I, and that's approximately at 930 BC. And remember, the dates are synthetic, they're not absolute. And so depending upon how the chronologies are synchronized, you can get different dates from different historians. Jeroboam I has a very rich story that I will tell in another video, and I'd like to know, who is your favorite king of this time period? You can write that down in the comment section. Well, I hope the best for you, and have a great week. I will see you in the next video.